Hello, I am Mayor Watt. That is ohmTown right there, ohmTown.com. I do ohmTown here on Twitch. Every day I do the ohmTown Daily News Show, which is basically about 20 articles that are taken from ohmTown.com. That is a news aggregator that I use every day. I use it in my professional and personal life every day. And hasn't steered me in the wrong direction yet. I'll just say yet. Maybe streaming is the wrong direction. I don't know. Anyway, this turns out to be a podcast and a YouTube channel. You can go to youtube.com/ohmTown. Boom. You can do a search for ohmTown on Apple Podcasts or on Google Play Podcasts or on Spotify. Try to be everywhere. Yesterday was a day where I was very cognizant of events and I didn't want to talk about it. Today is largely the same thing. I don't really want to talk about it, but I do want to make it known that what has been transpiring lately seems to be a public trend, but based on reports that I have read, there were some 700 mass shootings in 2021, and up to today, we've had a large number of very, very front-facing events, and the last one was absolutely horrific, but not the first. It was just the latest, I should say, even the latest. So with that, just want to say my heart goes out to everybody that's involved, and I hope that it doesn't ever happen again. And I don't even want to get into the discussion about it at this point, because there isn't really much to say. It's just a horrible event, and it's absolutely unfortunate that the targets of this, that there were targets to begin with, but the targets were so young. With that, let's see if we can just move on and see, and by that I mean just talk about the news and not that particular event, and let those who are specialized in the matter discuss it. With that in mind, I'm going to continue on and again just say once more that my heart goes out to everybody that's involved. Okay, so what is ohmTown? ohmTown is a news aggregator, throws a bunch of news into 6 categories: create, news, education, entertainment, social, and technology. From there, it goes into about 50 channels. Not all of them, none of them other than the ohmTown Daily News Show is live on Twitch at this time. I'm hoping to bring more of them. I'm hoping that everybody will get out of my way in my business and personal life so that I can actually do the show this weekend. But I've already been informed that I have an event on Saturday that I can't get out of, and it will be kind of hyper local to me. So even now my plans are being triaged. So I hope that I can do the business show on the weekend, but we will have to see and just kind of postpone that if I can't get enough time to get it going and do the show, because it would basically be an hour of talking about startup, business, intellectual property, strategic management, et cetera, and then the ohmTown Daily News Show. So about 2 hours plus. Yesterday, a show that was supposed to be an hour turned into 2 hours because I kind of went on soapbox. Not really rant, because it isn't. I'm not really angry or upset. It's just part of the nature of news and discussion. And if you land in my chat or you're listening to this in the podcast or YouTube forums, just know that it's my soapbox is really a matter of talking from the perspective of business, technology, and society, that kind of trifecta. And it's not really a rant, because I'm not rants kind of imply that I'm bent out of shape about something, but I'm not. It's just a discussion. So with all that in mind, let me hop off of that soapbox and we'll talk about the news. So the very first article is over in the Word and Tech, and it's because of the source. So it was sourced from The Verge, and I tend to throw their stuff into the tech-centric channels. This is about No Man's Sky. Newest expedition turns it into a roguelike. In the Leviathan launch trailer, a mysterious message splashes across the screen telling the player that, quote-unquote, death is not the end, and that they must, quote-unquote, re-enter the loop. If you think that language sounds a little roguelike, you're right. In Leviathan, Hello Games is putting a little bit of Returnal chocolate into No Man's Sky peanut butter. Wow, that's an old school riff right there. So Ash Parrish is the author of this over at The Verge. There's a YouTube video about the Leviathan expedition that was dropped. Feel free to go over to YouTube or follow the link, and that'll take you over to The Verge eventually. So when you click on the link in chat, it'll take you over to the link on ohmTown, which is a little snippet of the Verge article. And then at the bottom of that article, you'll see it'll look like this. Ta-da! And then visit the source. So you'll go over to No Man's Sky and you'll be able to read about it. So I knew about this prior to reading it from the aggregator because I was reading from other places. But my aggregator gets a lot of all of the news from pretty much around the world, as long as it's, well, actually, I can't even say that it's always in English because sometimes I convert things. But at any rate, the flow is to get you to go over to the source eventually and read a little bit more about it, because only you can get the full context and understanding of it, while I give you kind of a snippet, a slice, and my particular perspective of things. But for all intents, this is supposed to be a roguelike process now in No Man's Sky during this expedition. I haven't played this expedition, but I'm sure people will be playing it all over Twitch pretty darn soon. So the ultimate reward in Leviathan is a tentacled Cthulhian, all right, flying cetacean. That's the game's first ever living frigate. But there was a living ship beforehand. I guess a living ship versus frigate, two different ones. Anyway, at any rate, you can go and check out more about it. But I would recommend getting No Man's Sky. It's a one-time purchase, and they keep updating things. And if you get it now, you'll get all of these updates as they go. It's an investment in basically unlimited gaming, particularly if you like the whole base building RPG kind of like progression without any end. And you basically get to go and see similar things on immeasurable number of worlds, and you can play with your friends. So it's pretty neat. That said, let's go on to the next article. Quantum Internet inches closer with advance in data teleportation. So quantum computing is quite fascinating. Right now it's all specialized. You need specialized code, specialized mathematics, specialized equipment. Obviously, quantum computers are built to provide pretty much a specific purpose. But we are continuing to do that fundamental research that, for whatever reason, a lot of people discount deep education and understanding. But that fundamental research is what is making stuff like this possible, and other stuff that I'm about to talk about through our news as we go through about the 20 articles. So scientists have improved their ability to send quantum information across distant computers and have taken another step toward the network of the future, which is basically instantaneous communication. Because when you measure a quantum bit, it actually has the ability, if it is just forgot what it's called. It's locked to another quantum bit. When you measure one, it basically locks the other half in, and you can teleport that data from one place to another, for lack of a better term. And I am not a subject matter expert in quantum computing. I've never really done a deep dive into it, but the power of them is they're becoming more efficient and easier to deploy, more capable. So it says, harnessing the mysterious powers of quantum mechanics, the technology will perform tasks in minutes that even supercomputers could not complete in thousands of years. In the fall of 2019, Google unveiled an experimental quantum computer showing this was possible. 2 years later, the lab in China, or a lab in China, did much the same. This is an article by Cade Metz over at the New York Times. I don't think that it'll go into too much detail, but everybody refers to this quantum action, or spooky action at a distance, which is quantum teleportation. But right now, the objective of, well, let me just speak about the future. The potential is that quantum computers will be able to provide a means of instantly decrypting passwords, encryption, and they also provide the solution to encryption, which is instantaneous creation of massively complex encrypted keys that can be used in computers to make even quantum decryption more difficult, if not impossible. So you build a better mousetrap and smarter mice show up, and then you build another smarter mousetrap and better mice show up. That's kind of the nature of the beast here. And they have this great picture here, a diamond sample inside one of the quantum computers at the Delft University of Technology. And gold structures on a diamond surface allow control of the quantum processor. And the quantum processors that I've seen in the past are rather large, like 5 feet tall, super cooled inside a pressure vessel. And they do one thing. They spit out a particular result for a particular formula, a particular purpose. Massive amounts of data, but then assessed really quick. Where it goes from here, really it's all theoretical what the upper limit of this is. We just don't know, because it doesn't have the same application that regular desktops or servers have right now. So it says, after entanglement, you can no longer describe these states individually. Fundamentally, it is now one system. So, and that's what they're talking about, quantum entanglement, and that's what they mention right here. And the distance between these two quantum entangled particles can be enormous. In the moment you sample one, it reveals what the quantification is of the other bit. And that basically is quantum entangled networking. You get enough of these bits and you have a computer that is networked and instantaneously transmitting data. And then from there, it's really, there's no limit. You would be able to communicate anywhere instantaneously, massive amounts of data, once you have everything in capable of kind of computing and then teleporting the data and then recomputing and teleporting the data. Right now, we send it in little packets. Imagine being able to do that across space without any wires, without any transmission, so to speak. It literally is this spooky teleportation. It'll be interesting. But follow the link if you want to go a little deeper into what quantum computing is all about. The next article is over in the Mobile channel. Shell consultant publicly quits over company's extreme harm to Earth. This person says, "I just can't be a part of this anymore," Caroline Dennett said matter-of-factly in a video posted to LinkedIn on Monday. That video marked her final days as a consultant for Shell, the fossil fuel giant, with whom she'd worked for independent agency Cloud Ltd for 11 years in the UK. It accompanied an open letter of resignation filed to 1,400 Shell executive staff and contractors that condemned the company for ignoring all the alarms and dismissing the risks of climate change and ecological collapse. I actually read about a side discussion about the. I read about it and I was speaking to somebody about it. That basically this person was assessing risk, and they ignored what was basically being said. And at some point, like a lot of things, when you're ignored time and time again, you just discount it entirely and walk away. So I can understand. I've done similar in that as a consultant, if I go into an enterprise and the people just won't do what you say, recommend, or even acknowledge what you are recommending, and they keep doing harm to their enterprise, you have to mitigate your risk as a consultant and just say, I'm done. If you're going to keep on ignoring me, you're basically paying me, and I think that it's unethical. It happens with attorneys as well, and many other people that just have a particular moral compass that says you want to do something with your time, not just be paid and ignored. And that translates into other things in the workforce. And if we end up talking about it later in one of the articles, so be it. But for now, this is an article over at vice.com, written by Audrey Carlton. And it says, it has a picture of Caroline Dennett, and the little statement that she said. There's a video and an article, open letter of resignation, but I won't be clicking all of that. She worked there for 10 years and says, empowering tens of thousands of workers to improve safety culture at their work sites. But like I've said in other episodes, and again, this is kind of that rant side of things, that I hesitate to bring up, but it really is a means of discussion. So pardon me 1 second. The idea here is they've been working hard to try and resolve these problems, and then they're ignored. And this is part of the Great Resignation, where people are underpaid, overworked, treated like cattle, like property. If you don't do exactly what is told of you, then you are fired. But if you quit, then you're bad-mouthed, and countless other reasons why somebody would resign. But when you are sitting there trying to make the company mitigate harm to the planet, and they ignore it, you're basically just kind of being set aside. And that's why they worked. It says, like the 2016 catastrophe that saw 88,200 gallons of oil leak into the Gulf of Mexico. Her job was basically to try and prevent that stuff. And this is what happens when you ignore somebody that's a subject matter expert in the domain. So good on her, but now she's part of the Great Resignation. Let's continue on to the next article. This is Iodine Pro Data Review. External storage as fast as your Mac Studio's SSD. So Iodine Pro Data offers storage for creative professionals working in teams, combining multiple Thunderbolt connections with high-capacity NVMe SSD storage. Yesterday I spoke about a new drive that's coming out, an SSD that is, well, it's an M.2. Whenever somebody hears SSD, they think of like that right there, the standard 2.5-inch discs that are, for lack of a better term, more like a hard drive in a laptop. But M.2s are like packs of gum, except that the one that I was talking about yesterday actually does 13 gigs per second which is just spectacular. My fastest one is somewhere around 6. And so this is double the speed. And I can't wait for that. But you're going to have to get a new machine to really take advantage of it. So you're going to need PCIe 5. You'll need a faster processor, new motherboard. And that's the nature of technology. In fact, the way that I tell people is if it's 6 months old, it's already second generation, maybe third generation. And if it's not brand new, then it's old. Now, I don't follow my same advice, and I don't suggest that most people follow that type of advice, in that you only need what you need. And unless you see a fundamental slowness in your workflow, you don't need a new computer. Now, if you're doing video or audio, multiple tracks, multiple streams of video, and you're taking hours to complete something that really on a higher end system could be done in 30 minutes, then yeah, it's worth your while to switch out to the cutting edge stuff. And if you do it right, you can actually get brand new stuff for about 30% of the cost, because you can sell your 1-year-old device to somebody for about 75-60%, and then you pay the distance, the price difference between your sale and the new stuff. I did that for years, but I just stopped. Actually, just recently I stopped. So what is this? It is a new service, new device, new product. The Iodine Pro Data Storage. Packed inside the Pro Data is a group of 12 NVMe SSDs, which Iodine offers with total capacities of 12 terabytes or 24 terabytes in RAID 0 format. And you obviously get the full 12 terabytes. Well, that is cut to 10 because of parity in RAID 6. So there's all kinds of different configurations for RAID, depending on what you want. If you want more size, then you do one type of RAID. If you want more security, you do another type of RAID. And the types of RAID there's several. There's quite a few, actually. So Iodine says that the units will support up to 576 terabytes. And this is realized by high capacity storage and daisy chained units, and you can't get there in one enclosure. Maybe one of their enclosures, but you certainly can in some enclosures get up to that size. It says behind the panel is the collection of 12 NVMe M.2 SSDs, which are individually enclosed in a carrier that has a heatsink to help with cooling. This thing is going to be basically like the sun. Here, let me grab one of mine. So I have a bunch of these. These are M.2 SSDs. They're about 6 gigs per second. And these things get wildly hot. And depending on the computer you plug them into, the USB, just for whatever reason, can fail. It's not pleasant. But these are really nice. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. So yeah, these are my Western Digital black. Anyway, so without getting too into the weeds there, if you are looking for massive storage, high speed, and reliable, then you want to look for something like this, which amounts to a storage array. And this is more like the prosumer, almost commercial grade kind of solution. And this article over at Apple Insider goes into some great detail, including the audio, the acoustics of using this device. So if you want to get really into understanding what this particular device does, go over to appleinsider.com. Let me see if I can find the price real quick, because the context of that price, the other stuff you can deal with. But before I get there, the article is written by Mike Wartell. I think that's how it's pronounced, Wartell. So let me see if I can find the price on this thing. Sorry for the fast scroll, folks. If you wanted to see something, maybe you can hit pause. I don't know. So the device is starting at $4,000, and the unit that they've configured with 24 terabytes of space retails for $7,500, which for 24 terabytes of secure, fast data, that seems like it's portable. Yeah, it's not that bad. I mean, it is cutting edge tech though, so go and check it out. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to throw them in chat. Happy to talk about anything that you want to talk about. The next article is going to be a really quick one because basically it's announcing a cancellation. This is the Marvel MMO project at Daybreak Games has been canceled. The Marvel MMO in development at Daybreak Games has been canceled. Daybreak's parent company announced today that instead of pouring a truckload of money into making the game happen, it's going to spread it out across a bunch of smaller projects, including updates to existing MMOs. Lord of the Rings Online? They're going to try and continue that in DC Universe Online? That's a shame. All of this is older tech. I just don't see it having legs, but it had a lot of momentum, both of these. I'm an early adopter of Lord of the Rings. I have one of those lifetime accounts. I don't really see it, but okay. And to ditch a Marvel MMO, that's wild. I mean, there's so much momentum and brand recognition behind Marvel. There is, don't get me wrong, there's brand recognition here, but Marvel is just hyperactive. I mean, they are so engaged right now. I would definitely stick with Marvel MMO if the company wanted to do it. Marvel, if Marvel wanted to do it, if Disney wanted to do it. It says the existence of the Marvel IP-based massively multiplayer online game was revealed at the EG7 investor presentation in late 2021. The company said at the time that the new game was a long-term project and so didn't expect to reveal any more about it until 2023 at the soonest. Minds have changed. Let's go over to the source of this at pcgamer.com, and Andy Chalk is the author of this article. But that's really all there is to this article. They shut it down and made some business determination. It wouldn't be cheap to license Marvel stuff anyway. So maybe they want to give longer runway to whatever services they are actually making some money on versus the risk associated with them, an MMO. It's a lot of weight to lift there. So this popped up on my radar. It says campaigners join call by some Meta shareholders for an assessment of potential harms users face because a female avatar was sexually assaulted in Meta VR platform, campaigners say. And this is an article over at bbc.com. Let me see if I can find the author. I don't see an author on here. Maybe it's down at the bottom. I tend to name who the author is, but I don't see it over here. Interesting. Okay, well, sorry for the dead air there. Let's see if I can find the articles. Let's see. Noting that Meta had not yet seen the full Some of Us report, a spokesperson told the BBC the firm wanted everyone in Horizon Worlds to access the safety procedures and help us investigate and take action. Horizon Worlds is currently only available to users in the US and Canada. Avatars in the platform have a simplified cartoonish appearance. Some of us says the virtual assaults can be intensely traumatic. It still counts. It still has real impact on users. The group's campaign director, Vicky Wyatt, told the BBC Tech Tent podcast. So they are a researcher. Said the researcher subjected to the alleged assault felt that part of them was really shocked. Part of them thought, okay, this isn't my real body. This is an avatar. And another part of them thought, this is really, really important research that I'm doing. I need to capture this footage. So let's see. I want to see, because I haven't read anything about this. Like all of my shows, I don't read the material beforehand. I try to make it known in each of the episodes at some point. The BBC has seen some of the footage. The avatar of the researcher is not in vision, okay, as it is taken from her perspective. But there are two male avatars in the room, one of whom is observing while the other appears very close to her. The pair make lewd comments and share a virtual bottle of a drink. Ah, okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, nowadays it seems like people don't have personal boundaries in real space, let alone in virtual space. People think that they can say and do whatever they want online, going so far as to do things like swatting, which is old school, real world, and has led to people being harmed. And by harmed, I mean dead. So the researcher also witnessed homophobic slurs, virtual gun violence, the group claims, and you're going to find that. I think the only way that you can really eliminate this stuff with the greatest of, I guess, mitigation of these type of things would be to remove anonymity from the interface. You have to log in with your name. You have to prove who you are, etc., etc. But just like vaccine cards, there's going to be some numbnuts out there that is faking the ID or whatever so that they can abuse the system and the goodwill of someone. And then they abuse the system because it's people that do this kind of stuff. Why we can't have nice things. And it's a real shame. I mean, people just need to be people. But those type of people need to go back under their rock. They're not learning the lessons that I am forced to train about on the regular. You know, I have to do it at least every year. Certain types of training, but not every person has to do that. You know, certainly not online. Anyway, different strokes, so to speak. So the next article, and I'm gonna move on. The next article is about natural gas. Natural gas surges above $9, hits the highest since 2008 as inventories stay low. Natural gas prices are the highest level in nearly 14 years, just as summer air conditioning season begins. Yay! Let's click the link. Takes us over to CNBC, and Pippa Stevens is the author of this article. If you've never seen a ship that does this natural gas, shipping, you'll dig this. So it's always in these giant spheres on the boat, on the ship. And they're huge. This thing is just so huge. Pretty wild. Anyway, natural gas surged above $9 per million British thermal units, or MMBTUs, on Wednesday, hitting the highest level in more than a decade as dwindling inventories push prices higher. This is largely because Russia's war in Ukraine, or I should say, let me rephrase it, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and subsequently Russia turning off liquid natural gas supply lines to various places are naturally going to drive it up. Well, I think that it might be interesting to know if these companies that are now getting 9.4 dollars per million BTTUs are actually owned by people that are aligned with the Russian economy. This is just like I've been saying about U.S. domestic providers of gas and oil, and that is when there are very few people that are in control of this, it's very possible that there is exploitation taking place in terms of pricing and wealth aggregation. And there's so many people on the outside looking in that nobody really knows, and there isn't enough oversight of all of this because it's international and very complex, and you can have shells within shells, layers of an onion that is only forensically stripped away for it to make any sense. But when there is a conflict somewhere, all it takes is somebody to say, somebody with an MBA goes, you know what, we can exploit this and make a ton of money. Meanwhile, there's suffering. So again, a little bit of the sociological aspects of this. We aren't just a bunch of machines and being tooled up for business operations. We are a society, and we're being severely hard hit by inflation that is created not by society, but a select few people within it that are driving the cost through the roof instead of everybody. And I know it sounds naive when I say it out loud, but instead of all of us getting along and working together to better the world, we're trying to, some of us are trying to step on the necks of other people to get ahead for the short-term gain while we burn the house down. So here we have it. Liquid natural gas, $9. Everything old is new again, folks. So the next article, let's keep on moving. The next article, scientists will set up 1,000 traps for murder hornets. This year, scientists will set up 1,000 traps in Whatcom County this year in their quest to wipe out the Asian giant hornet in Washington state. If you have never seen, I hope they have a picture on this. I haven't seen it, but if you've never seen a murder hornet, brace yourself. Okay, so that's a lackluster picture, but it's a video actually. Nicholas K. Let me just pause this. Nicholas K. Geranios from the Associated Press. Okay, so this is in Washington state, which is in the U.S. It's the top left if you're looking at a map, right? So it's in the upper left. How they're in Washington state, I don't know how they're surviving up there. I thought it would be too cold. But it says scientists believe the hornets first detected in the Pacific Northwest state in 2019 are confined to Whatcom County, which is located on the Canadian border north of Seattle, Washington. That's Seattle, Washington. We're doing pretty good right now. We know about where the nests are located in Whatcom County. So let's see if we can find a picture. I don't know if they're going to actually show it. No. I really don't want to just play their video. It doesn't make for a good podcast. So the insects are the world's largest hornets, with queens reaching up to 2 inches. The murder hornets that I have seen are 2 inches, and they're not just queens. They are considered invasive in North America for their ability to kill other bee and hornet species, which is how they got their name, murder hornets. Yeah, let me see. I don't know. Maybe I'll click the... Is it just going to be a bunch of... I mean, just whacking that thing. They're sitting there whacking a tree in this video. And that would be like me walking up to a bear and punching it in the nose and going, yeah, okay. Not a big deal, right? No. These things are going to come out and try to kill you. Anyway, they got the big old suits on. At any rate, these things are a nightmare, and they're invasive. And so, if they're going to be wiping out bees and other hornets, the hornets I'm good with. You can take those, but the bees, leave the bees alone. I just bought Apico, by the way, the game on Steam called Apico. Hopefully, I'll be able to play it soon. Maybe. It's already 1:30 here. I don't think that I can play it today until later, so maybe I'll stream later tonight. I'll send out a notice. If you're following me, you'll be notified. Okay, so let's continue on. The next article, Twitter stock, and this is about Twitter, not Elon Musk. I'm not everything is about Elon Musk when it talks about Twitter, but in this particular case, because he's buying it and there's a lot of turmoil about what's going on, because of the integrity question about Twitter and the number of bots versus humans, the valuation of Twitter is declining, correlated to the fact that Elon Musk and the pain and suffering, I guess, that billionaires are going through right now is weighing really thin on investors. And so they're bowing out. And so the stock is tumbling. And it says, easy come, easy go, as shares of Twitter Incorporated fell below where Elon Musk bought it, wiping out more than $1 billion in gains in 4 weeks. Well, it hasn't been completed yet. So this article is by Tommy Kilgore. Stock price has tumbled 31% since the social media company agreed on the buyout deal. They agreed, but it hasn't been completed yet. The social media company stock is up right now, actually, according to this. The lowest close since May 16th. So it closed at 35.76. Its high was actually 52. But there's different things. There's year over year, and then there's 52 week. A subtle but distinct valuation difference too. Very interesting that there's both of them. But anyway, that means the stock closed Tuesday 1.1 below the purchase price. Musk would be losing 29 million on his investment. That compares with 1.14 billion. So don't think of it as losing 29 million on the investment. Whatever price he set and the board agreed to, and then the vote goes out to all of the stakeholders and everybody agrees, yes, go ahead and sell it. And when all of that is said and done, the price is whatever the offer was, unless there was a rider in there that said that it would match whatever the market price is, which never happens. Usually there's a premium on a stock, on a purchase of a company based on the stock. They say, well, to eliminate anybody saying no, I will give a premium of like $5 per share above. It's usually not that high, not that I know of. But anyway, so it says a 13D filing with the Security and Exchange Commission on April 5th showed that Musk, who is chief executive of Tesla and founder of SpaceX, bought his 73.12 million shares of Twitter, or a 9.1% stake, at a weighted average of 36. So he's not really losing so much as there's a very big premium on the price that he is acquiring Twitter at. It's a different take, but basically it means that there's more juice for everybody who's a stakeholder. Okay, so let's continue on. I think that it'll continue to lose as long as there are questions about the integrity of the Twitter population. How many are humans? How many are bots or puppets for some particular purpose? Not just bots, but things that are feeding misinformation or political discourse that's artificially intelligent, but it's directed by a human. A little bit different than what a bot is, but NOAA is forecasting up to 21 named storms and as many as 10 hurricanes that could form, all because climate change. Really, that's what it's coming down to. This article's over at phys.org, and it's written by Doyle Rice from USA Today. The season begins June 1st and runs through November 30th. An average season typically spawns 7 hurricanes and peaks in August and September. If predictions hold true, there will be a record 7th consecutive year of above normal activity. And overall, the NOAA said 14 to 21 named storms will develop, and the number includes tropical storms, which contain wind speeds of 39 to plus. At some point, it becomes a hurricane at 74 miles per hour. And they say that if of the predicted hurricanes, 3 to 6 could become major hurricanes, packing winds of 111 miles per hour or more, as several of them hit the U.S. at about 150 miles an hour in past years. Very destructive, usually in low-lying areas or on the coast of Florida and basically the Texas, but usually lower lying areas. So let's continue on with the next one. We'll just continue to watch the news, and if something interesting pops up there, we'll talk about it. So I am perpetually interested in VR. I even have a show that I want to talk about VR, and I want a wireless headset. I don't want cables, and I don't want older generation wireless. I want something new coming out. So I'm always watching. Well, this is the best VR headset is a portal to another world, or at the very least a good way to spend the evening without leaving the house. The best virtual reality headsets are the highest quality, most comfortable, easiest to use, and the least vomit-inducing. That really comes with experience. If you don't use a VR headset, there's a really good chance that you're going to get VR sickness. And the same thing that you take for seasickness is the same thing that you take for VR sickness. But over time, your body becomes acquainted with the disconnection between your eyes, your body, and your inner ear, and you can basically overcome the issues. So don't worry about that part. If you're interested in VR, you can always just get it. So let's scroll down here. I'm not sure why this one aggregated so much, but I don't allow the pictures to come over because you can go and look at the pictures. I want you to go over to pcgamer.com. This article is by Alan Dexter, and they go through a few of them: Oculus Quest 2, the Valve Index, HTC Vive Pro 2, the HP Reverb G2, and the HTC Vive Cosmos Elite. So there's a bunch of them, but the Valve Index, to me, is the best bang for buck and disconnected from Facebook or / Meta. Which was really funny because they said, oh, we are not going to change the Oculus Rift from being Oculus, and then it suddenly became the Meta Quest. Hey, whatever. So they talk about what the best VR headsets are, and it looks like they're saying that the Meta Quest 2 is the best. And so objectively, sure. A wide field of view, a fast refresh rate, great resolution. Can't really say anything about the Oculus Touch controllers. I'd be surprised if number 2 isn't the Valve Index. There you go. And I've liked the Valve Index. I ended up selling it to somebody. But it has everything that I want, except that it's tethered. And if it didn't have the tether, then I would be all over buying it again. Even if there was a $300 premium to it, I would still buy an Oculus Rift. If you want to know more about it, go over to pcgamer.com, and it's an article that's by Alan Dexter with contributions from Bo Moore, Katie Wickens, Jacob Ridley, and it's titled The Best VR Headset in 2022. So I got about 3 more articles. The next one is Hooray for Craft Beer, an illustrated guide to beer is here. If you're not a drinker, then you can ignore this one. I'm not sure why there's JavaScript in here. But it says oftentimes picture books break down complex ideas into their simplest form. Hooray for Beer, an illustrated guide to beer. The latest release from Brewers Publications provides a whirlwind illustrated journal for those wishing to visually digest and learn more about craft beer. Let's click the link. It'll take us over to homebrewersassociation.org, which is a fairly new addition to my aggregator. And this is actually kind of a older article, but maybe something got updated and it got pulled into my aggregator because of that. So if you're interested in this, it's a $20 book called Hooray for Craft Beer, an illustrated guide to beer. Let's see. Craft beer is an artistic hobby and industry, and I've always advocated for fun beer education to open the door for everyone to participate, said author M. Sauter. Hooray for Craft Beer is a simple, easy-to-read guide to learning through illustration, from the ingredients and brewing process to glassware and how to taste beer. You know what? You can taste beer just by drinking it. Little known pro tip there. This book is perfect for both the person starting their beer journey or the craft beer aficionado wanting to dive even deeper into what's in their glass. So I've brewed beer a few times. It's really simple. The only thing you really have to worry about is the right sequence of events and make sure that you don't contaminate anything. Try not to touch things after you've sterilized them. A little bit of star sand here, a little bit of star sand there. Don't sneeze into your bottles. Had to pay for testing the last time I did that. Just kidding, I didn't do that. Anyway, go check out the Hooray for Craft Beer book. You can follow the link that I forgot to throw in chat, but it'll be in the show notes. So if you're listening to this, it'll be in the show notes. Just look for Hooray for Craft Beer book or guide. It'll be there. The next article, there's only 2 left. So if you have any questions or comments, throw them in chat. Let me know. A Tesla crashed into a convention center at 70 miles per hour and nobody cares to find out why. I didn't know about this. I'm just going to click the link and it'll take us over to vice.com. And for whatever reason, it's not just called vice.com. It's Motherboard Tech by Vice, and then they have a title. Don't know why they do it that way. But anyway, the article's written by Aaron Gordon, and it says a horrifying crash in Columbus earlier this month has prompted no reaction from authorities. So why did this? On May 4th, Nadine Chalmers was in downtown Columbus for a conference, riding in a car pulling out of a parking lot just outside the Greater Columbus Convention Center. The car stopped on Vine Street at a T-section with the convention center directly in front of her, waiting to turn right onto North High Street. Then, with no warning, a car shot past at incredible speed, narrowly missing them. Without braking, swerving, or taking any evasive action, the car flew into the convention center. There's actual video of it. No need to play it here. You can go and check it out if you want to. They said, we just sat there in shock and called 911. We figured dozens of people were probably hurt in the building. They were also worried it was part of a terrorist attack, with the driver perhaps trying to blow up the building because of the seemingly intentional nature of the crash. Now, if that's not a sign that the terrorists have won, I don't know what is. So the driver didn't hit anybody inside the convention center. With his Tesla, the car happened to strike a support beam that stopped its progress further than flying into the lobby or striking a nearby elevator shaft. Wow. That would have sucked. But 3 weeks after the crash, there are still as many questions around this potentially catastrophic incident. How did it happen? Was there a mechanical defect? What's going on there? I'm really curious now. Good job writing an article about it. Because I don't think anybody would have known. Mainly because it's not sensational enough, I guess. If it would have crashed into a busload of nuns or something, then I think it would have been all over the news. But apparently, if you just smash into a building with a Tesla and it doesn't do anything, then not a big deal. You can see the pillar that it smashed into. Hopefully that wasn't damaged beyond repair from a load-bearing pillar. Interesting. I'll have to watch that video. But like I said, I don't play the videos here on the stream. Why? I want you to go over and watch the video over on the source. Here, let me throw it in chat because I'm neglecting to do that at the end of my stream, apparently. And finally, the last article, and this is about kind of the merging of all three of the main topics that I talk from, which is business, technology, and society. Why giving your employees a piece of the pie could boost your business. Want to attract and retain more employees? Maybe giving up a piece of the pie is the answer. The number of businesses that are giving employees a share of ownership is growing, according to the National Center of Employee Ownership. In 2019, the most recent year for which data is available, 239 new employee stock ownership plans, or ESOPs, were created, covering 46,537 participants. In total, there are approximately 6,482 ESOPs in the United States, holding a total of assets about 1.6 trillion, and it's growing. And that's really what it should be. But as I've spoken about in previous episodes, there was a new billionaire minted during the pandemic every 30 hours. And that's a wildly high number. And I just don't think that billionaires should exist. That's my perspective. And again, I'll reiterate, I am a capitalist. I think that a person should be able to hang their own shingle and run their own business and charge what they feel is right for whatever it is they're offering. But at some point, you have to give back and be a social animal and not just take. There is a lot of suffering in the world, and it seems that the adage is you can't be a billionaire without great suffering on the other side. But here we have this metric that there was a new billionaire minted every 30 minutes during the pandemic. Employee stock ownership plans hold over 1.6 trillion in assets and can make a more profitable company and a better place to work. Yeah, it's because the employees have skin in the game. They're part of the apparatus, and rightfully so, because just because somebody strikes up a business doesn't mean that all of the people owe their allegiance to the employer. It needs to be like clockwork. Everything has to work together and be seen as a process, and not just treat employees like a tool that you can break spiritually, physically at times. I read somewhere that there was a guy that got hit in the head and he recovered, but the owner of the business is basically saying, you weren't the right person for the job, so you shouldn't be employed here. But it wasn't a problem for the previous 10 years of employment until he got hurt. So it says here, why? For three significant reasons. The first is that employee-based companies provide an exit for the business owner. So if you spin up a business and there's employee-owned portion of it, then the business owner can bow out. Let's see if there's other. I'm trying to find the other two. I don't know if it's going to be as overt as that first one. No. Wow, they're not very clear about it. Let's see. So maybe it's in that very first paragraph. They don't really make it abundantly clear. Then there are the tax savings, big tax savings. In a typical employee ownership transaction, an entity owned by the company employees is created. That entity then buys a portion of all the company's shares. A bank generally finances this purchase, so the employees are not out of pocket. Remember, this is a benefit plan. the company pays back the bank and gets a tax deduction by doing so. And then there's even more. The income from the company that's allocated to the entity is also non-taxable to its owners. Those two reasons for selling shares to your employees are persuasive enough. But there's another, even more significant benefit. Ownership makes for a more profitable company and a better place to work. Showed that companies with an employee stock ownership plan laid off fewer employees, cut fewer salaries, and required less help from federal aid packages during the pandemic. I don't know. Some owners might think that's easy money. According to Kaiser Permanente, employees who have equity in the companies they work for report 33% higher median income, 53% longer median job tenure, and 92% higher household net worth. Employers say their profit margins are 8.5% higher and that they are 3 to 4 times more likely to retain staff. In short, employees love having a piece of the pie, and they show that gratitude by working harder and staying longer. Agree. And that is typically why I like working with people that want to be part of it, not just an employee where they turn off at 5 o'clock, but they have skin in the game. That skin turns to passion in the work product, in how hard people work. And if I'm willing to work 100 hours a work week and the fellow owner stakeholders in the enterprise all want to do the same level of work, then there's a really good chance that this thing will be a raving success, versus people that are treated basically as I don't know how to indentured servants. They're given a little stipend of survival income, just enough to get them food, but you still have to buy it from the company. Anyway, I'm going to get distracted and end up talking about old school company practices, but I'll avoid it. Anyway, the more the employees are part of the enterprise and respected and believe that the enterprise is there for them just as much as they are for the customers, you get a better workplace environment. But apparently that is not how you become a billionaire, folks. You can't own 100 businesses and only take 1% margin and give the rest to the people that work, because when you do that, you won't become a billionaire. But that's socialist, Mayor Watt. You can't do that kind of stuff. Well, that's the end of the show, and like at the end of every show, I bring you back to the front page. Hopefully I don't crash it. I'm always working on the back end of ohmTown. I got to keep all of the gears working, and sometimes I break it in the middle of the day while I'm working, noodling around on it. At any rate, just go over to ohmTown.com and you can get all the news that's fit to consume. If you find a source of information somewhere and you want me to add it to the aggregator, because it has value, it has efficacy, as long as I can verify it and everything looks good, then I will include it in the aggregator and eventually end up talking about whatever it is, if it can be categorized into one of these 6 categories and their subsequent channel. Every single one of my articles has something to do with one of the almost 50. I've actually decommissioned I think 3 or 4 channels while I reevaluate what their topic is going to be. But at the end of the day, I'm still doing the ohmTown Daily News Show every day. It's been bouncing around. I hope by this weekend I will be done with that bouncing around, except for Saturday where I've got an appointment for all day. Okay, thank you very much for coming. If you're in my chat, thank you very much. If you haven't followed me, please go over to twitch.tv/ohmTown and follow me. That'll keep me highly motivated, although I dig doing this anyway. So thanks again. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.